You know, this year has felt painfully long. Like 2020 genuinely felt like it was never going to end. To think that at the beginning of this year I had a job and plans to go to Japan and Anime Expo and oh my god, I had no clue as to what was going to happen. It really does feel like I'm telling this story from an apocalyptic bunker. However, I felt like for some reason I was particularly harsh this year on anime. When I just kind of blindly thought back on the anime of this year, nothing really stood out to me, and I was beginning to write 2020 off as a weak year for anime. But then I stopped and actually opened my eyes because 2020 was a great year for anime. I think the reason I felt like 2020 was lackluster was because now that I had a ton of time to watch anime, because I lost my freaking job, I ran out of it much faster than usual and felt like there weren't as many shows, which obviously wasn't the case. So today, I want to take some time to look back on the shows of 2020 and talk about the ones that stood out to me. Then at the end of the video, like usual, I'll tell you guys what I think my personal favorite anime of 2020 was, along with what I think the best anime of 2020 was. So let's begin with a little show known as Bofuri. Bofuri really came out of left field for me. I wasn't expecting to get into an isekai that season, but I was sold once I found out that the two main characters aren't stuck in the other world. It's this cute anime where this girl finds an exploit with defense in her MMORPG and continues to break the game. Basically, she just finds an exploit, the devs patch it out, and then she finds another. It's a lighthearted isekai with likable, cute anime girl protagonists with lots of nods to gaming culture. It's well-rounded, the art and fights are good, and just an easy show to get lost in. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, we have Darwin's Game. Whereas Bofuri was all laughs, Darwin Game was a lot of laughs, but for very different reasons. This anime took itself so seriously that you just couldn't help but laugh at it most of the time. However, I'm not going to shame this anime too much because it is a pretty good story. The show follows a guy who downloads an app where he is basically put into a real-life battle royale with freaking superpowers, and yeah, that's kind of the whole show. I mean, each of the characters are paper thin and the show is unnecessarily gory at times, but that's also kind of where it gets its charm. It's just so over the top that you can't really look away. It's an addictive anime with a bunch of plain white bread characters with some pretty cool fight scenes thrown in there. Now the next show I have to talk about is Toilet Bound Hanako-kun. This anime is freaking gorgeous, man. They really took some liberties with the art style and just created some crazy looking scenes. It's a mystery ghost anime with some comedy and a little bit of darkness in there to spice things up a bit. And if you watch this anime, please just do me a huge favor. Please watch this show subbed. The voice actor for Hanako-kun in the sub is absolutely amazing. Some of the lines are just so expertly delivered, and that voice, oh my god, that voice, you just need to hear it to understand. It's honestly such a unique show that really plays well with this otherworldly feeling. If you like shows that are almost hypnotic in nature, definitely don't sleep on Toilet Bound Hanako-kun. Now come on, you guys know I can't not talk about Somali and the Forest Spirit, right? This anime is just plain gorgeous and sad and happy and hopeful. Seriously, if you guys even remotely enjoy slice of life shows that just rip at your heartstrings, don't sleep on this anime like so many before you have. Somali and the Forest Spirit follows a golem who's escorting a small human child back to her human village. In this world, monsters rule most of it, and humans are basically an endangered species. The story is following the two of them as they travel the world together. And man, I'm sorry, but this show just hits different. That's all I'm gonna say. Please, if you haven't given this show a try, fix that. Probably the most unique anime of the season is Keep Your Hands Off of Eziken. I remember that the opening became a meme for a little bit. The show follows a bunch of amateur animators as they make their own animation club and begin making anime. It's a really imaginative show, and they take a lot of time to show all the detailed little techniques that are required to make animation. I think what stuck with me the most about this show, though, is that little town they lived in. It's such a unique little world island thing, I don't know. All I know is that it was super cool to look at. The show also has a really good focus on the three girls' skills and specialties. I love the fact that one of them is literally just a producer. It's a good way to show people just how important producers are when it comes to creating productions. It's a fun show that if you ever wanted some insight into the basics of animation, it's a good place to start. I would imagine. I don't know. I legitimately don't know that much about animation, but you get the point. Speaking of gathering knowledge, we saved the most famous for last. That is right, we are talking about interspecies reviewers. Yes, I know some people say it's hentai, others say it's not. I am part of the latter. However, at the end of the day, it's a pretty funny anime. It's a satire on the ecchi genre where the show really is about three guys going around to every brothel and trying out different monster girls. Afterwards, they write reviews and sell them and make money, and then they spend that money to go to more brothels. And yes, the show really does push the limits of what should be allowed on television, but thanks to the rising power that was Nuxtaku, this show became by far one of the most popular anime of the year. If you like comedy and you like ecchi, well then you probably already watched Interspecies Reviewers. And that's it for the winter season. Holy crap, like I said, when you actually open your eyes, you can start to see that there really were a ton of fantastic anime this year. So let's move on to the spring season. Spring wasn't as loaded as winter, but it had some really great shows. Gagiasama Season 2 was probably the most popular thing to come out of this season. Once again, it's a great continuation of the first season with some really good character development thrown in for the characters of Ishigami and Ino. It's just one of those shows that balances real-life comedy with good fleshed out characters. I mean, there's not much more to say on this show because I feel like most people have already watched it, and if you haven't, like, come on, man, it's good. Like, I've yet to find a person who's watched this show and not loved it. Tower of God was an anime that came out. I feel like Tower of God is particularly notable because it's the first massively popular webtoon to get turned into an anime. And boy, did we feel it. This show got some serious hype, and it definitely started out strong. But I feel like overall, this anime ended up being a bit disappointing. Yes, the ending was great, but I feel like this is one of those shows where the first 2 episodes were great, and the last 2 episodes were great, and the rest, yeah, you just kinda gotta slug through it. I do think that this will probably be one of the most memorable anime of the year because of what it means. Basically, shows that aren't from the established manga industry can be successful, and since then, we've seen a steady increase in the number of webtoons getting adapted into anime. For the final show of spring 2020, I gotta give a little love to My Life as a Villainess. This was one of my guilty pleasures this season that honestly turned out so much better than I had expected. It's a reverse harem isekai anime where the main character is stuck in her video game as the villain who dies. So the whole premise of the anime is for Catherine to prepare herself so she doesn't get killed off in the many horrific ways she's seen it happen to her in her video game. Despite this, it's just such a cute, feel-good anime with a surprisingly unique twist on isekai that I recommend everyone give a try. That's a lie. This anime is absolutely not for everyone, but if you like reverse harems and isekai, this might be for you. Alright boys, summer 2020 brought some seriously big names out. The first and biggest being ReZero Season 2. I have to admit, ReZero Season 2 started off, I don't want to say bad, I just couldn't take it seriously. It was just so overdramatic that I kept laughing at scenes that I really wasn't supposed to be laughing at. However, the show does finally pick up around episode 3 and goes full force into the plot. Season 2 of ReZero really is a fantastic ride that, granted, leaves us on a cliffhanger, but still is a fun arc with the possibilities of a traitor being amongst them. The final season of Snafu came out as well. Surprisingly, I didn't hear much talk about it, but me being the Snafu loyalist that I am, watched it week to week. I feel like they may have overlooked the comedy aspect of My Teen Romantic Comedy for this season, as it's actually a pretty dark season, but the show does finally wrap up nicely and has quite a bittersweet ending. We also had Rent a Girlfriend, which was the dark horse of the season. No one was really talking about this anime at all, then boom, literally everybody was watching this show. For good reason though, it's sadly quite a relatable anime, but it is pretty wholesome for an anime about renting people out to pretend to be your girlfriend. It's an enjoyable show that, in my opinion, desperately needs a second season. And the final anime for summer 2020 that I need to include is Decadence. Man, so many people slept on this anime. I tried to get people to watch this anime and no one would give it the time of day. It is a gorgeous anime with a cool world, unique art style, strong characters, and one hell of a roller coaster of a story. There is a huge plot twist after episode 1, so I need to be vague as to not spoil it because I know most of you haven't watched it yet. Come on, man, I'm serious. Give this show 2 episodes. If you don't like it after 2 episodes, feel free to drop it and drop me a dislike. Please don't dislike this video, that was just a joke. And here we are, the final season, which frankly had so many great shows I wanted to talk about, but I had to narrow it down to 4 for time's sake. So starting off, we just gotta talk about Jiu-Jitsu Kaisen. This show was one of those anime that had a ton of hype behind it, so I watched it begrudgingly and was like, oh yeah, I get it. This anime really just has all the bells and whistles of a popular show. Jiu-Jitsu Kaisen follows Yuji as he becomes a curse hunter. The overall story of the show is good and pretty dark at times. Not to mention, the action scenes in this anime are nuts. I was right to assume that Gojo was going to be my favorite character because that man is insane. His fight scenes and his technique is just beyond broken. The story seems pretty solid as well, and I can tell that this anime is probably going to just keep getting better and keep growing in popularity. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, we have Tonikawa, which, is probably the exact opposite of Jiu-Jitsu Kaisen. The art style is bland and the characters are nothing special. However, it is just such a wholesome anime that makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside. If you don't like the first episode of this anime, I definitely recommend stopping because this anime is a true slice of life show. Literally nothing happens in this anime. This anime does not have a story to speak of. It's just one of those shows that's there to make you feel good. The Journey of Elena is another anime that I'm actually really disappointed in myself about. I should have made a fully dedicated video to this anime, but I struggled to find the time. This anime was probably one of the most unique shows of the season. I'd call it like Mushishi Light. It's a bunch of short stories of the Witch of Elena's journey through the world. However, this anime isn't afraid to go dark. Luckily, they usually do put up content warnings on episodes where the show goes dark, but man, I legitimately can't show some of the scenes because this video would get blocked by YouTube. This anime doesn't pull its punches, and each episode tells a different story. But they aren't consistent lessons. Most of the time, the lesson is that this is life, and sometimes life is cruel. If you haven't watched this anime, I've been recommending it to everyone because it really is something else. But definitely give this show the 3-episode rule if you plan on watching it. And the final anime we are going to talk about, the dark horse of fall 2020, Talentless Nana. If you guys don't know about this anime and you don't want it to be spoiled, there's like a time code in the corner, top right corner of the screen. Just click that or jump to it because I'm about to spoil the shit out of this anime. Basically, it's Among Us the anime. The show follows a character named Nana who may or may not be murdering everybody on a secluded island for pretty messed up reasons. The show is pretty dark. I think the first episode is probably one of the coolest first episodes in anime, but the story takes an unusual turn when someone dies and, well, for once, it wasn't Nana. So yeah, this show gets pretty crazy further on, and if you like these kind of mystery anime, I could not recommend it enough to you guys. Now look, I know there is a lot of good anime this year that I skipped over while making this video, but look man, this video is already long enough, and these to me were the must talk about shows of the year. So let's get to the finale, shall we? My 2 awards that I give out at the end of each year. My personal favorite anime and the best anime of the year. My personal favorite anime of the year is Somali and the Forest Spirit. If you know me, that's no surprise. But when it comes to this anime, I really can't express how powerful it is. It really is something truly special in my book. The show is a bunch of short stories with Golem and Somali as they try and bring her to her human village. The catch being that Golem is nearly dead and isn't supposed to have emotions, which obviously we learn later on isn't the case. Just the banter these two make and how well they work off of each other, along with the show's subtext of discussing racism, is surprisingly powerful. There were not many anime that made me cry this year, but this show got me multiple times. Alright, now time for the best anime of the year, and I have to admit, this was a tough one. There were a few shows I was looking at. Rent-a-Girlfriend crossed my mind at one point, but then we also had shows like Gagiasama Season 2 and ReZero Season 2. But I finally settled on Jiu-Jitsu Kaisen. The reason being that this was its first season, and frankly, this show really is amazing. There's something magnetic about this anime. All the characters are fun, the art style has this nice grunge kind of look to it, the story has been solid so far, and the fights, God, those fights are just on another level. This anime had some close competitors, but when you take a step back, it's clear to me that Jiu-Jitsu Kaisen was the best anime to come out of 2020. Thank you for watching. Oh man, what a year it's been. Dude, can I just say I hate this time of year in particular. My file got corrupted. That's why this video is so late. I'm so sorry. If we were 90% through the video editing this, and the thought that I have to later go re-edit the whole entire project with this new audio file makes me want to cry. I'm sorry, I know no one cares about this stuff. I just want to rant about it. Once again, I've been streaming on Twitch. I took a break for this week because I had to work on this video, but I'll be back to streaming again soon. So feel free to follow me at twitch.tv/ManimeMatt. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, we also have our public Discord. Feel free to click the link in the description if you want to join that as well. Either way, a huge thank you to my patrons. You guys are my heroes. This is Manime Matt. Make sure you guys stay man and go watch that goddamned anime.